Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com. What's up YouTube, Dal here from Z4 Games, and as a lot of you have requested, I am today bringing you a Fallen of Albaz deck profile. Now, Albaz at the moment has a lot of fusion monsters, but not a lot of actual support cards in the main deck for him, so he does need to be used and abused with other engines. Considering Albaz's main effect is to use your opponent's monsters as fusion material, it is more of a go second build. So, I have brought to you today a very in-depth build for Fallen of Albaz, and I've also got alternate engines that, should you have the money, you can upgrade it as well, because I've tried to keep this on as much of a budget as possible, because it's not a high meta deck. It is going to be a fun deck that you want to play around with, and a deck that you want to be playing if you know the lore. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Also, massive shout out to Joe who helped me put this together, and I've tried to keep this Fallen of Albaz focused, but you can of course start to make this more meta relevant, more powerful by putting stuff like Dragoon Engine and so on and so forth. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the profile. So it is a Fallen of Albaz deck, so we do play triple Fallen of Albaz. So this card, if it is normal or special, you get to accept during a damage step. You can discard one card to fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on either field as fusion material, including this card, but you cannot use other monsters you control as fusion material. So obviously, at the moment, we don't have a Fallen of Albaz fusion monster that says this Fallen of Albaz plus 2 monsters. It's always plus 1. We're then taking out the one Keeper of Dragon Magic, purely because it has the ability to discard and add a poly. Now, by adding the polymerization, it can add any kind of fusion spell or normal spell, which what we're going to be using it to search for in this deck is fusion deployment, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But this also allows you to revive Fallen of Albaz from the graveyard as well. So this is more for the grind game, which is why we're not maxing him out, and it's mainly just to have a 4th copy of Fallen of Albaz in that sense. Then, because we are going second and we are relying on pretty much playing through our opponent's board, you've got to run the Kaiju package. So with the Kaiju package, I've gone with Godala just to get past the barrier statue play. I've gone with Kumungus and Gameciel as they are the lower levels. But your most important Kaijus are going to be Thunder King and Yugioh. Now the reason that is because the best fusion monster in the extra deck, in my opinion, is the brand new one, which is called the Albion, the Branded Dragon. And this one specifically requires 1 light monster. So I want to try and give my opponent either Yugioh or the Thunder King, because then I can normal summon the Albaz, discard a card, and straight away fuse, getting rid of the Kaiju, going into Albion. Albion then has the same effect that it can fuse, or has the effect that it allows you to fuse using your graveyard to summon out another monster. So what that will allow you to then do is it will then allow you to banish your Fallen of Albaz and then banish the Yugioh or the Thunder King to summon out your Titanicad the Ash Dragon, which requires a monster with 2500 or more attack, which obviously both of these figure. These are kind of cards that you could play at more than one of as well if you wanted to. The reason I've only got 1 and 1 at the moment is because you do specifically need these 2 cards in order to want to give your opponent a Yugioh or a Thunder King. If you don't have a Fallen of Albaz, you really don't want to be giving them a big beater. So it is a kind of specific route to go. But as time goes on, as more testing comes into place, that's probably where you might drop the Kumungus, definitely for a 3rd one of these, just to go that route. Because we're going second, Dinarest of Prankatops, just a free summon that can pop a back row or pop any kind of threat you might have. Triple Nibiru pretty much serves the same point as the light Kaijus. You're giving your opponent a light monster that's going to have, I believe the token has a high level. Yeah, a level 11 token, and it is going to be rock and light. So straight away that gives you easy fodder for your Albion, and you've cleared your opponent's board off. So it means that even without a Kaiju, you're giving your opponent a light target for your Fallen of Albaz to get into your best fusion monster. And then you're able to go from there, because again, yes, you won't have the token in the graveyard, but if you do have any other monster in the graveyard, or you get rid of a Nibiru into your graveyard, you're then going to be able to go from there. But Nibiru is one of the cards that you can change out. If your opponent is not a heavy combo player, then you adapt from that point. So that's when you'll go, right, okay, he's not a heavy combo player, or he plays through Nibiru, but he can't play through X, Y, or Z. We've then got Triple Ash Blossom, so obviously
currently the best generic hand trap around. If you want to, you can add in Ghost Ogres, Veilers, Imperms, Lanciers, Drolls, absolutely up to you. There's no real reason either or way for this one. So then carrying on, now this is where we get into the interchangeable engine. Now what I mean by this is, if you've got the money, if you've already got the cards to hand, this is where the Dogmatica package comes in. So this is where you're playing your triple Nadir Servant, your triple Ecclesia, your Philidius and your Maximus. Now the only issue with these, specifically Nadir Servant, is Nadir Servant sends from your extra deck to graveyard, which is great because then you can trigger off the Albaz fusion monster effects to get you a search for your Albaz for your next turn. But it locks you out of the extra deck. So the only real one that you want to be sending will probably be your Albion, because the Albion then gets you a branded spell or trap, and then that lets you go a little bit further from there. It also sets up a spellcaster in your graveyard with, of course, Ecclesia and other cards like that, but it's very, very specific. The engine that I've chosen to go for in this particular build is the Yugioh package, and the reason that's so good is because we're going second, so Yugioh Fusion is absolutely amazing, but then on top of that, if you do play the one Weathering Soldier, the one Hedgehog, the one Genius and the one Beast, what you've really got here is a very nice little package that if you activate Yugioh Fusion, you send Weathering Soldier, and then you're either going to send your Nest Yugioh, which is going to negate a monster effect if you don't open up your Dark Ruler No More or a Kaiju, or what you want to do more times than not is send Weathering Soldier and Hedgehog to make your Shekhanaga. That will then allow you to add either a Nest Yugioh or a Yugioh Beast, which means once you negate your opponent's effect with Shekhanaga, you get a draw or you get to negate another card. Coupling that off, you then, of course, just as we part into the spells, do play triple Yugioh Fusion and then the single Fossil Fusion, because obviously Weathering Soldier gets you the Fossil Fusion, which means you get another Fusion boss monster on the board. Keeping in mind that if Branded of Albaz, there is a track card that if your Fusion monster is sent to the graveyard that turn, you get to summon it back from the graveyard as well. Plus you're putting into the graveyard monster materials that are going to help you go, less so for Titanoglad, but it's going to help you go into the Mastery on the Dragon Crown, because keep in mind, the Fallen of Albaz or the Effect of Albion lets you special summon any level 8 or higher, level 8 or lower Fusion monster, so it doesn't need to be a specific type. And that's, of course, where you could abuse the Dragoon package if you wanted to in this space as well, is you could be playing stuff like Souls to send Dark Magician, or Foolish Burial, send Dark Magician, put it up into the graveyard, set up your graveyard, and then Albion can then banish the materials, being Albaz plus Dark Magician, to make you a Dragoon. You could, and I believe, I'm not 100% sure on this, but you can also banish the Dragon Knight because it counts as Dark Magician in the graveyard, but I'm not 100% set on that. And I don't think it counts as being used as a vanilla monster, so you wouldn't get the pop and burn of Dragoon. Moving on to the spells, we've got triple Dark Ruler No More. This is purely because you're going second, so if your opponent builds up the strongest board ever, you want to turn it off and then be able to run off from there. Dark Ruler No More is a little bit better in my opinion than something like Evenly Matched, because you want to leave them with cards on the board, because if you trigger Dark Ruler No More and then Yugioh Fusion, you're pretty much good to run riot. Now again, if your opponent is more of a back row heavy deck, that's when you're going to put in more back row. At the moment, we're main decking double Cosmic Cyclone, but you can put in stuff like Lightning Storms if you have them, Evenly Matches if you have them, Twin Twisters if you want to, Harpy's Feather Duster, cards like that. We've then got triple Fusion deployment. Now you'll see that from the extra deck, we're not actually planning to special summon a lot more. We've probably got 2 monsters that aren't Fusion monsters in the extra deck. So Fusion deployment allows you to reveal any of your Fusion monsters that specifically list Fallen of Albaz and then special summon him. So again, going second, that lets you special summon a Fallen of Albaz from the deck, trigger his effect to discard to then fuse with one of your opponent's monsters. Now obviously you want to be using this with a Kaiju, so for example, this with a discard and a Kaiju gives you your Albion, and you're then able to keep going from there. So you're able to kind of make plays going further forward, and it just gives you a lot to play around with. We've then got double Branded of White. So this is the Fusion spell specifically from Albaz as well. So Fusion summon 1 Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as Fusion material, including a Dragon monster. You can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material. If you use Fallen of Albaz as Fusion material from your hand, or if this card, if you can use Fallen of Albaz as Fusion material from your hand, field, and or banishing itself from the graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz, you can set it. So not only can you search this off of Albion being sent to the graveyard, but what makes him really, really cool is this will allow you to Fusion summon any Fusion monster as long as you use Albaz, which does mean that you could use Albaz to make Winder. You can also use Albaz to, of course, use Albaz to make any of your Titaniclads, your Albions, anything like that. But it also allows you to make stuff like your, not Starving Villain because it needs to be on the board, but give me 2 seconds. Like your Dracus Depelio, because it just requires a fusion monster and a dark monster, and of course Albaz is a dark monster. So you can kind of see where you've got ways of abusing Brandon and White and climb up. It's a card you could put at 1 if you wanted to, because the deck isn't reliant on it, but it is just another nice card to have that ability to banish from the graveyard. Double Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, because even going Dark Rule No More, Kaiju Slumber, straight away you're giving your opponent the Kaiju you want them to have, you get a Kaiju, and then you can normal summon your Albaz and fuse, and then off you go from there. Double Desires. Now, the better one if you just want to focus and narrow down your extra deck will be Extrav. The one that if you don't want to narrow down your extra deck but you have them is Prosperity. If you don't have, that's where we go with Desires, because you play a lot of free ofs that it's not the end of the world playing Desires. The last card we play is a Reasoning, because including the Kaijus, you're playing like 8s, 10s, 11s. Albaz is a 4, Shadol Beast is a 5, you've got Hedgehog, which is a 2. So you've got so many different level attributes that Reasoning is not the end of the world. Sorry, Hedgehog is a 3. But you've got a lot of different options, so Reason is a nice free extender should you get it. And then I'll put the traps in here as well. We're playing double Judgment of the Branded, and the one Screams of the Branded. So all of these cards, exactly the same as the Branded in white, share the effect that if they're discarded from the hand to activate Fallen of Albaz, you can set them that turn. Also key in one, if you send it Albion, should you be playing the Dogmatica engine, you will be able to search or set one of these during the end phase as well. So your Judgment of the Branding, you target a level 8 or higher fusion monster you control, destroy all monsters your opponent controls with an equal or higher attack than that target. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it's sent there this turn, to activate Fallen of Albaz, you can set it again. Screens of the Branded, if a fusion monster is sent from your deck to the sent to your graveyard this turn, you get to special summon one fusion monster that is banished or in the graveyard. So again, just a fusion monster. So if they get rid of Winder, you can bring Winder straight back. So it's a very specific card, which is why we're only playing it at 1. Judgment is very specific as well because it has to have higher attack, but that does let you have the ability to pretty much put down your lower level monsters, lower attack monsters. So you're going to be wanting to focus on like your Winder at 22s. Sorry, it needs to be level 8s. So you'd be focusing on anything above 25, because obviously Albion, Titaniclad, Bringrand are all 25s and higher. And that's where you kind of go with that route. Again, it's not as important, which is why we're only playing it at 2. Then moving on to the extra deck. So then of course we've got the one Albion. I'd probably play 2 of this if I had them. But what makes this kind of cool is it's Fallen of Albaz plus 1 light monster. So if this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon 1 level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except himself, by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add to your hand or set 1 branded spell or trap directly from your deck. So if you link this off, you get to set a Screams, or you get to set a Judgment of the Branded, which is kind of cool. Other than that, you get to kind of move around, and ideally what you're trying to do is go into Titaniclad as well. We've then got 2 Titaniclad. This is the stronger one of the 2, but this might be where I play 1 Titaniclad and 2 Albion. But this one requires 1 Fallen of Albaz plus 1 monster with 25 or more attack. Gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the monsters used for its fusion summon. Now obviously Albaz times 100, I believe. So Albaz is going to be 4, so he's going to be boosted by 400. And then you're going to be using an 11 or a 10 in the Thunder Kaiju or the Jizukuru. So it then goes up by another 1,000 or 1,100. So it gets to a nice 39, nearly 4k monster on his own. And then after this card is fusion summon for the rest of the turn, it's unaffected by the activated effects of other monsters special summoned from the extra deck. During the end phase, if it's sent to grade, you get to special summon or add a Fallen of Albaz or Dogmatica monster. We've then got the one Bring Grid, just purely because, less so you're going to be using it, but I kind of wanted to keep it going because it is an Albaz deck. But it requires Fallen of Albaz plus 1 level 8 or higher monster. Again, that's when you've got the ability of using your Kaijus and everything like that. Can't be destroyed by battle. While you control this fusion summon card, your opponent cannot target other monsters you control with monster effects. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you get to add to your hand or special summon a Tri-Brigade or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck. And the last one, which is kind of like an honorary slight Albaz for the moment, is the Mysterion the Dragon Crown. Again, this is probably one that you could make Albion in, but this requires 1 spellcaster plus a dragon monster, so the spellcasters are going to be your Shadol cards. Can't be used as fusion material. This card loses 100 attack for each of your banished cards. If a monster uses its effect to special summon itself or a monster from with the same original type except during the damage step from the graveyard. No, just in general, I believe. You can target one of those special summon monsters and banish that monster. Also banish all monsters from the field with the same original type. So it's a nice card, but it's very situational. Then for the Shadows, of course, we've got the one Winder, lock and go. The one Apcoline. So again, if you wanted to negate 2 card effects, you could actually make an Apcoline instead of a Shekanaga. Construct. And then, of course, Shekanaga. Moving into your Fossil King. And we've also got the one Fossil Skull Knight. Then moving on to just generic super poly targets or targets that can come off the back of Albaz. You've got Predaplant Dracus Tepelio and you've got Starving Venom. So 2 dark monsters on the field, except tokens, and then 1 dark monster plus a fusion monster. So it's ways of getting through Dragoons and stuff like that. And the last elite monsters we play are the 1 Cross Sheep and the 1 Borrowed Sword Dragon. So obviously Cross Sheep, you're going to be fusing. Look at all these fusions, you're going to be doing that. Use the effect, bring back a monster. Then as you use this plus anything else and the monster you've brought back to go into Borrow Sword. And then your Borrow Sword is coupling off with any of your fusion monsters to attack. So if you went, for example, Albion, and then Albion made Titaniclad, as long as you've got a monster in the graveyard off of Sheep, you bring that back, and then you're able to go into Sword. And then all you need to do is keep Titaniclad or Albion, and you're going to get to attack twice with Sword, and pretty much OTK for your game. And that is it. So very straightforward and simple. It's a quite interesting deck. I like the concept behind it. I do think it needs a little bit more, which hopefully we get with the new Stigmaticas, which come out in the next set. So we've only just got Lightning Overdrive, but the next set, Height of Majesty, is going to be a very interesting one once it hits the shores, and it'll be interesting to see what Albaz can do at that point. But for now, as absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you get this video up to at least 50 likes, I will attempt to take this to either a locals or try to do a test stand video to kind of show you the way it works. But it is quite situational that test hands don't really show the maximum potential of it, because you're going to be going second. You're going to be like, right, okay, Dark Ruler or Shadow Fusion, and then try and go off the Fallen of Albaz kind of plays. Anyway, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.
Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com, where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com.